The GVSU women's basketball team starts their season on November 8th when they travel down to take on the University of Missouri St. Louis. Time now for our season preview. My name is Jake Levy, joined by head women's basketball coach Mike Williams. And Coach, let's start with this. 3 years ago, you had 4 sophomores that jumped into a very big role. Now here you are 3 years later, you have this huge senior class, a lot of expectations. Did you expect this class to come this far as they have?
Well, when you recruit a class, obviously a class like that one that was such a highly rated class, you do. You think they're going to become good, and obviously a lot of things can go wrong along the way. We've had one in the class that's obviously with a knee injury, so so you don't always know. But obviously the expectations are that yes, you're going to be by the time these kids are seniors, they're going to be a class that can compete for conference championships and maybe compete nationally.
You talk about the stuff they do on the floor, but to see them grow as leaders over these last 3 years and now be this senior class that leads this team, how fun has that been for you and Coach Sayers to see them grow like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is they've kind of taken ownership, and they've kind of done, it started a little bit last year, then continued this summer, and they kind of do things that need to be done without us telling them to do it. And I think that's been the biggest, not surprise, but probably the biggest blessing for this group is, it's just they've taken so much ownership that I think this year, probably the most in the 5 years that we've been here, we've had to do the least amount of coaching. And that's been fun.
It's going to be an interesting year in the region because not only do you have a heavy senior class, but a lot of the other powerhouses do. Drury returns all their players from last year. So does Lewis. And you have an interesting non-conference schedule that features that Lewis team again. Tell us a little bit about that game coming up in a little bit.
Well, I think the nice thing is we get them here. Obviously, their home court's been really good to us, and last year we had to play them at their place and dropped a close one. But it's always good to play these teams non-conference because you get a chance to maybe see them in the tournament like we did with Lewis. But it's a program. We've had battles. It's always been, we've been in the top 25. I think the last 4 years that we've played them, both teams, and it's been great games at their place, our place. We played them twice in the NCAA tournament, so. It's always a good measuring stick, too, to play a great team like that early to find out where you're going to stack up in the conference.
That game will be at November 17th right here at the GVSU Fieldhouse Arena, by the way. Make sure you come out and see that game. And you turn our attention to the GLIAC schedule now. You guys are the reigning GLIAC regular season champions, so congratulations on that. But this GLIAC might be one of the strongest it's ever been, with Northern Michigan being so good, Ashland being so good, Michigan Tech always being so good. This is going to be a really challenging conference this year.
This will be probably the best it's been since that first year that I came into it. I think it's really, like you said, I agree. You throw in Ferris, Northwood, you throw in, Wayne State, just all the teams. Davenport, our rival, obviously keeps getting better, but it's going to be. I think it is going to be the strongest and deepest it's been in a long time. And like I said, Ashland returns everybody. We got a good nucleus back, so expect the team that wins the GLIAC. Because I think last year we ended up going through with one loss. That's not going to happen this year.
Well, how much does that do for you regionally to have such a strong conference top to bottom?
Well, you think it would do. I think last year it helped us because you saw Northern, who got nicked a little bit in the loss column, but still got in the NCAA tournament in the region because of their strength of schedule and because of the strength of our conference. So I think you've always believed that it does help you, and last year I think there was some proof in the pudding. So and secondly, to get in the region helps you, and then secondly it helps you when you do get to the tournament in the postseason because you're playing such a competitive schedule day in and day out.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but what do you take from last year's run to the regional championship game into this year when you talk about that postseason play and how you ramp up? You talk about 3 separate seasons. How do you ramp that up?
Well, I think really it means nothing until you get there. Obviously it's a whole new season, and making the NCAA tournament now is a feat in itself. With 3 conferences in, and all the conferences have grown, so to make it is just it's a feather in your cap. And then if you do end up making it, you've obviously had that experience last year. These kids have been in that battle, so I think it helps you from that standpoint. But until you get there, I don't know if it really helps you.
Well, the first part of that season starts on November 8th, and you guys go down to Missouri St. Louis. Coach, best of luck in that opening weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your time.
All right, Jake. Thank you.
This has been the GVSU Women's Basketball Season Preview on the Grand Valley Sports Network.